correctly. I've seen a lot of people go through lots of sets of strings because they're trying to tune it to the degree that they should not. And you also don't want to damage your ukulele. Because if you make it too tight, of course you could snap the bridge. Besides snapping the strings, you can snap your bridge, and you don't want that. Or cause the bridge to lift up. Ooh, you okay?
Uh-oh. Did I do that?
No, not you. It's a bad day, but not that bad a day. Hold on.
It's been a bad day.
Wow, it's only Tuesday. It's Wednesday, so hump day. Can you all see me still? Or
no.
It's just a black screen, huh? Okay, thank you.
Just a black screen.
Hold on. Okay, there we are. Looks like the side camera is working, but not the forward camera.
There it is, front view.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, so folks, this chord chart here is something that was handed out even the very beginning classes and stuff. So this is for your reference, and this is not all of the chords that you could ever play. And some of you may have other chord chart sources where you're going to see that here's a C, and then the next line is D flat. But some of your other chord charts may show C sharp. They are the same, okay? So C sharp and D flat are the same. They're the same shape, but the context of them is going to be different depending on what key you might be playing. So they are the same, and you're going to see this wherever you see flats here. Okay, like here's that E flat, it's the same as a D sharp. All right, G flat is the same as an F sharp. A flat is the same as a G sharp. And B flat, we usually just look at B flat as being simply B flat. Although for the purists, they may say, no, that is an A sharp. And they would be correct, but it's just in the common nomenclature, we would refer to this as a B flat. Okay? And they've listed out, what is it? It looks like nine common, relatively common chords. But we're not going to be covering chord theory per se in these workshops, because it's really does require another level of focus, okay, which normally is relegated to actually taking lessons, because there's a lot that goes together with ukulele theory. But you can certainly pursue that information on your own. I can't say that there's a lot of information out there. There are some very reliable books. Mel Bay, Hal Leonard, they all put out books with regard to chord finders. And of course, there's music theory books. And if you needed to know the construction, and that would be the term that you would pursue, chord construction. How does a chord get its name? And what I will tell you is that a chord gets its name based on its root note, right? Its root note. So a C chord gets its name because the root itself is C. And it just so happens that in the C chord, there are two roots that are present in the C chord. Remember, our tuning is G, C, E, A, all right? So you have this open C here. That is your root for the C chord. So it is present here. And the C also appears here on the third fret of the first string. All right? So that is what allows us to maintain that name. So here's a chord that has two roots present. All right. Okay, so so just remember that if someone's saying, what key are we in, and they're going to tell you, oh, we're in the key of C, you will know that the chord gets its name based on its root. And if, we're going to play an F followed by a G7. Well, an F gets its name because its root is F. A G7 gets its name because its root is G. All right? And there are only two other delineations in terms of chords. You have major chords. You have major chords that are sharped. Okay? That's where when I'm speaking of these chords here, right? The C sharp, that's its delineation. And then there's a D flat, right? C sharp, D flat. So they're speaking directly to a specific note, okay? The specific note tells you what is the root of the chord. A chord is made up of, specifically a major chord is made up of three tones, three disparate tones, three completely different tones. But they're identified to us as a 1 and a 3 and a 5. So if C is 1, D would then be 2, 3 would be an E, 4 would be an F, a 5 is a G, an A is a 6, and a B is a 7. Okay? So we give these delineations alphabetically. We also assign them numerically. All right. So if C is 1, it is followed alphabetically by D, followed by E, followed by F, followed by G, followed by A, followed by B. Okay. Fortunately for us, there are only 7 natural tones in our keys. Okay. There's a total of 12, because if we factor in our sharps and our flats, we will have 12 tones altogether. But when we talk of chords, we're speaking of them in their natural tones. So that would be C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. Okay, that doesn't mean we can't play in sharps. We certainly can, but we're not going to be covering that too much here. All right, so you can use this certainly as your reference as you come upon lyric sheets, in your searches for music to play. This will help you identify those chords that they're asking for. Say that again. There's somebody asking a question? Okay. All right, somebody's got a question, huh? Is that you, Rosa? Yes. You're this tiny little block on my screen, so I'm sorry if I can't see your name. Okay.
I'm not, when I look at the chart, I know that flat is a B.
That's right.
When you say C sharp, what is the symbol for sharp?
That would be like a pound sign. Yeah, pound sign.
Okay. And what is just a C with nothing on it?
That's a major. It's a major.
Right.
So we never call out a major chord. We just simply, in the absence of the word major, we know that that chord is a major. There's nothing else that gives its definition. Okay?
So when you say this is in C major,
Mm-hmm.
I have the list C, E7, A7, D7, G7, C, and C7. Those are the C major chords.
Yes, they're major, but we don't ever use the symbol for major unless we have to delineate it from other notes that are contained within the chord itself. Because the chord contains at least 3 notes, disparate notes. And when I say disparate, I mean they're not the same notes. Okay? So if we just take a look at the C chord, and we're only touching 1 string on the 3rd fret. That means you've got all these other open strings, right? Now when we tune them as G, C, E, A, right? So here we have a chord, C, we have a G, the open string, we have a C, the open string, we have an E, which is an open string, and we have the C here on fret 3 of string 1. That is a C major chord. Okay? We're not going to call it C major, we're just simply going to say this is C. This is a C. Okay? So the other names of chords delineate their character. Okay? Their particular characteristics of chords. And I want you to look at the next chord that's on your list, C7. C7. Okay? When we look at C7, right? We still have a C. That's this guy, string 3. So that is the root of a C7 chord, the C. Okay? And now we're making that C major chord a 7, a C7, and that is because we're taking the C here on string 1, and we're going to move it down a whole interval, okay, a whole step. Now remember that each fret represents half a step. So here we are, excuse me, on a C. We're going to go down a whole step, which means 2 half steps, right? If each of these frets is half a step, if we go down a whole step, we're going down 2 frets. So start here, and we're going to go down now half a step and another half a step. So we're down a whole step. So this C has gone down to a B flat. It's a B flat. In the B flat, if we count, if C is 1, D is 2, 3 is E, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, 7 is B. But we're going to take that B and we're going to lower it another half step. So this, it's still a 7, right? B is still a 7 to the C. But we're going to lower it now to a C7, a whole step down from the C, a whole step, not half a step. Okay? So next week I'm going to be covering with you the notes that are on the strings. And have you all had a chance to also download the handouts that were given in the very first sessions of the beginning ukulele workshops? Ted, they are available, right? Yeah, they're all available at the same site. So if you can download those, then you can refer to them because there is a diagram. Let me get to this sheet here.
If they don't have it, tell them to email me.
Okay. And if you don't have it, if you don't have access to it, hey, what's your email? Can we just do ACC?
I always send out reminders, so you just.
Oh, okay, all right. So we've got a reminder, okay, in that email about how to communicate.
So if they don't have that, just have, they can reply to that reminder, so I will get it.
Okay. So just reply to the reminder, okay? And then you can have that access. Okay. So because what we want to do is be able to show you all the notes that are on your ukulele. Okay. That's this guy. So that's in that first set of printouts that were given to the very first sessions. So you should have access to those two, because those are the packets that were given for the beginning ukulele players. Okay? And what's good about this is it does show you, remember what I said about A sharp being the same as a B flat? This particular grid shows this. You're going to see within the oval two notations. The one up top shows you the A sharp, and right below it is the B flat. Okay? So we'll be talking about this a little bit more next week. Okay? Now, when we play these chords, again, it's necessary to know what is the root. And you're going to find the root whenever you shape these chords. We've only got 4 strings, not like a piano. How many strings are 88, right? 88 keys to a piano. Guitar has 6 strings. Ukulele has 4 strings. Violins have 4 strings too. Mandolins, that kind of thing. So the formation of our chords on an ukulele can be rather simple. Okay, we won't have the depth of chord construction on an ukulele that you would on a guitar, and most certainly not on a piano. That doesn't mean that you can't find the notes. We can actually fragment chords and find their shapes proper to the ukulele on them. Okay. All right. So use this, as we begin looking at songs and understand what things what these chord shapes look like. All right. And there are lots of online references that you can go to that will help you as well. And Rose, you still have a question?
Yes, if, I didn't get the one that you just showed. If we never received it, do I send an email to Crystal Wood?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. It's in the reminder. She'll make sure that you're provided it. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So you can get the whole packet. I think I may have to redo the packet now that we've expanded the workshops, so that they can be so you don't get them mixed up, because now we're drawing back to what happened in January, trying to bring it forward into May. So I just don't want everybody to get confused by what you see, but it's all very relevant, especially for you beginners. Okay. Now the thing about chords, and let's just concentrate, because I'm assuming that all of you have played a few chords. Let's just say you've played C and an F and a G7. Those 3, right? C, there's my C, and I'm taking my 3rd finger, 3rd fret, right? Placed on the 3rd, 1st string. Okay? And then here's my F. I'm taking my index finger. I'm placing my index finger, finger 1, on fret 1, string 2. My middle finger, or 2, is on fret 2 of string 4. Okay, so there's my F right there. And then I've got my G7, and I'm going to keep my index finger here on that string that it's on already, and I'm going to rotate my elbow up. And then I'm going to drop my middle finger onto string 3, fret 2. And then I'm going to take my ring finger, or finger 4, 3, onto fret 2 string 1. That's my G7. Okay, that's G7. And you notice my elbow is up still, huh? Okay, and the reason why we do that is because in almost every instance where you have 2 fingers in the same fret, it's necessary for you to lift up your elbow so that you can line up the fingers correctly without injuring your hand. Okay, that's always been my primary concern, is that you don't injure your hand, you don't injure your thumb, you don't injure your wrist. Okay, because what happens a lot of times is folks just kind of force their finger onto the fretboard, and it adds this stress that should not be there. So you lift up your elbow, and then you can relieve that stress and line up the middle and ring finger in the same fret, because they're in the same fret. Okay? And by lowering now your elbow, this is what allows you to swing back out to the C shape. And when you practice this on your own at home, I want you to get used to lifting up your elbow to get back into the G7. And then lowering your elbow to move into the C shape. Okay? 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then back to the C. Okay? Because as I covered last week, it's really important to be aware of what's happening behind the ukulele. The fingers are one thing, but the delivery of the fingers to their proper places in the front, that really is the function of your thumb, your wrist, your elbow, your forearm, your elbow, and your upper arm here. Okay. All right. So be aware of what's happening. And last week, if you remember, I said your home position until you get yourself really, really situated and your muscle memory has developed so that you have more flexibility with your fingers and your thumb. Your home position should be just above the arc of the ukulele here, just above it, just slightly above it. That's the fatty part of your thumb. Get it back there so that when you are holding your ukulele, you can kind of hang your hand from your thumb on the back of the ukulele. So it should be placed behind fret 2, okay, near this fret marker here that delineates between fret 1 and fret 2, okay? And it should be between strings 2 and 3, okay? So that's what allows you to have this hold here, okay? And then your thumb, if you're moving your hand around, you see how your thumb is what allows your fingers to move freely. You're not gripping anything here with your palm. Your palm actually has to have the ability to move forward. That comes from the elbow, right? The elbow is putting pressure on the thumb to stabilize your hand so that your hand delivers your fingers where they need to go, right? And you're not choking on your ukulele. You're just very easily moving your fingers forward, right? So you've got all this movement here, okay? And look how easily you can place your C there. Another really good habit for you to develop as you're practicing your chords is to not hide your fingers away, okay? Just because you're playing this finger, your ring finger, to form your C chord, doesn't mean you tuck all the other fingers away. Your fingers are going to have to be really active. So that means placing this C here, your third finger, onto that fret, but you need to keep these fingers hovering over the fretboard. When you're looking at your lyric sheets, study the lyric sheets. Look at your chord charts. If the lyric sheet says we're going to be playing C followed by an F, you should already have a reference here off of your chord chart that you're going to go from this shape to an F shape. Okay? And that means look at where my fingers are. They're almost in the formation of an F, a very relaxed formation to move it into an F. So my middle finger, which is the one that's assigned to the second fret, up top. Of course, anatomically, for me anyway, not everybody's like this, my middle finger is longer than my index finger, okay? So it's already poised to go into place. So that's how you practice. You look at your lyric sheet and you prepare. I'm going to play a C first, then an F, followed by a G7, back to a C. And that way you get your visual reference off of your chord chart as you're learning it. And you do need to practice memorization of these chord shapes, okay? So you look at the chord diagram on your sheet. You look at the fingering on your ukulele so that you have multiple visual references. One comes off of the black and white sheet. One comes off of the actual shape that you can look at from up top, looking down. If you have a mirror at home, look in the mirror also. That's another visual reference. And the reason why that's important is because I would like to think that many of you are going to have the opportunity to play with other players. Okay? So if everybody's kind of keying off of each other and what each other is doing, you're going to be sitting across someone who should be playing the same chord as you. So that's your other visual reference. Right now I'm looking at a screen that tells me what I'm doing. Okay? And I can look at that. And I can say, yeah, that's the chord that I ought to be playing. That's a C. I recognize it as a C. All right? So that you'll be able to do that when you're looking at other players as well. Okay? All right, so again, my fingers are poised for my F. I'm going to release my ring finger, and all I have to do is drop my fingers, which are already very close to their strings, onto their frets, the strings and frets. So there's my F, all right? And then I got my G7. So I'm going to lift up my elbow. And you see, here I am. Look at my ring finger. My ring finger is ready for its next assigned position, right? There's my G7. So I'm lifting up my elbow, and my fingers are already dropping into place. I know that my index finger has to stay on board, right? And as I'm moving, I'm using my finger here, this index finger, to help my hand pivot. All right? Now, I want you to take notice of something. Here's your G7. You should be feeling the pressure between the thumb behind the ukulele and the index finger in front. Because remember, we were on the F and we were using the index finger to pivot, right? So look at that. Isn't that interesting? Now we have a G7. The fingers that are moving are the ones that are not fixed. The fixed finger, index finger, is the one that's working with the thumb in the back. This is why the fingers, these fingers that are dropped now, they have all kinds of movement, right? They have all kinds of movement that's allowed to them by the tension that is being exchanged between the thumb and the index finger. Now I can move my ring finger up and down off of its fret. You hear that? You hear that movement? Okay? And you're going to be developing that strength, the thumb. Your thumb is going to feel some growing pains as your muscle memory develops. Right? And then they move out to the C. Okay? So those are the little tips that I can share with you that will hopefully make your practice more productive. You're not going to get better if you don't practice. But practicing involves not just playing, it involves chord recognition off of these sheets, chord recognition looking down on your instrument. You have to have a visual reference. You have to know that, hey, if that's on the 3rd fret in that chord form, I should be on fret 3 also, right? It should match, okay? And then if you have the mirror, then look at the mirror too. So that way your brain gets accustomed to seeing people playing across you. And also people, to the side of you, right? Okay, so we've got a few more minutes. And what I thought we'd do is if we could just take the C, F, and G7 chords and let's apply some strums, okay? So when we play music, when we listen to music, when we write out music, there's a particular pulse that's associated with the song, right? It's a pulse. And our ears are designed to hear these pulses. And when we hear changes in the melody, they happen within the parameter of time, okay? So that's where we have what we call measures, okay? So songs are assigned a particular, what's called time signature. Most songs, Western songs anyway, are built on 4/4 time. So that means that one measure will contain 4 quarter beats, 4 quarter beats, okay? So to demonstrate this, one measure will have these 4 quarter beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So what I want you to do is let's do 2 measures each of a C, 2 measures each of F, 2 measures each of a G7, and then we will finish by playing 2 measures each of a C. We're going to return to the C, all right? And let's go slowly, and what I want you to do is I want you to count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. F, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. G7. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going back to the C. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So that way you have an audio reference to the beat. Your brain is going to begin teaching your hand to keep the beat. Your ear is hearing beats, and you're going to develop that ability to time your movements, okay? So much so that you, over time, you will be able to know if a song is being, if 2 measures are being applied to a particular phrase within a song, or if it's just 1 measure, okay? There are other ways of counting time too, but if you're going to start writing songs, that's when it's more important that you know what your time signature is, okay? All right, so let's do this again, and like I said, count it out loud, right? And for now, with these quarter beats, everything is going to be a down strum, all right? Now, as I covered last week, remember, our strums are going to be here at the shoulder, okay? As you start out, you're going to do this, all right? Now, how much of a strum should you use? Not much, okay? Use this area right here in the surround of the fretboard. Here's your fretboard right here, okay? You don't need to go much past, say, a finger's width to do a strum. Yeah, you don't need to do that. I see some folks just go, wah, wah, wah. Don't do that. Don't do that. The ukulele didn't do anything to you, so don't roughhouse your ukulele. It's more important for you to remember that when you're going to keep time, that it's always consistent movements. Because every time you strum, you have to recover from that strum, okay? Every beat is a recovery of the prior strum. So you don't want to go so far that you actually alter your time, that you're going to add time to the beat, okay? It has to be consistent. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now notice too, when I'm strumming, my whole arm is not moving, is it? It's all coming off of the wrist. It's all off of the wrist. Okay? If you were hitchhiking, you would be hitchhiking like this, right? It's all off of the wrist. So while you're learning this strum, this is another muscle memory that you're developing. The muscle memory of the wrist. When you can strum, you can use all your fingers if you want for a strum. But when you're starting to learn your instrument, I think it's best that you learn to use your index finger for your quarter beats, okay? And when it's a down strum, you're going to engage your fingernail here. Okay? So look at the way my hand is oriented. I've tucked in my fingers, the fingers that I'm not going to use for strumming. And I've got my finger crooked, it's relaxed. Where is it stiff? It's actually stiff between this knuckle and that one. So this is where it's moving, okay? This is where it needs to be relaxed. This part needs to be stiff because you don't want it flailing all over the place, all right? So you want it, keep it relaxed because you also don't want to inflict any pain. I usually keep my thumb up this way because it gives me stability, okay? So I have stability here. Okay? And then next week, what we're going to do is we're going to expand a little bit more on strums. We're going to get into eighth beats and the use of the thumb for strumming. Okay? So let's do this. And if any of you is going to join in with Beyond Beginners, just stay put. And there are quite a number of you out there today. And for those of you who observed and perhaps participated in last week's big day of giving, I want to give you a great big thank you for the support that you demonstrated. It's really something to help ACC. I couldn't be more honored. Last week it was very touching, to hear how dedicated this staff is to taking care of their clients. A lot of times these are people that who out of desperations turn to ACC for help, and it was just an absolutely remarkable thing, the amount of support that was provided last week. I think the goal for ACC last week was $100,000 raised for the services here, and they exceeded that goal literally by 100%. It went over $200,000 that was raised. Remarkable, absolutely remarkable. So the ACC was one, I think, in the top 5 organizations that participated in the big day of giving. There were 688 such organizations that did this last week. And for ACC to be in the top 5, that's just absolutely remarkable. And it speaks of the vision of Ted Fong, you know, to deliver this message that ACC is here to help. And it can't do it by itself. It does it with wonderful donors and supporters. So thank you very much for your help. Okay, so everybody else is going to be in there too. Is that okay?
Yeah. So Chris has a question.
And Chris has a question. Do I hear that? I can't hear you. If your mic is off, then turn it on.
I just have a question about, and it's no priority, but
Yeah.
on picking a strap eventually.
Okay. Well, you know, I use a strap mostly because I'm a very active player. You know, I do a lot of performing, so I'm very active. So my ukulele has a tendency to kind of just fall off of me. And we girls sometimes have a particular problem that men don't have because we might have a little bit more in front that makes things unbalanced. So I have used a strap almost all of my adult life, I should say. As a kid, I didn't. Okay, but the kind of strap that I use depends on the kind of ukulele and how it's pinned. So this one has a pin on the bottom here, and it came with the pin. It didn't have but one pin. So I buy these. These are Planet Wave products, and what I can do is I can release myself from it by pressing on this, okay? So my strap is then attached to this, this piece here, and then the mate is here, right there. So I can just snap it on. So it's an easy release. There are other straps where the pin is here at the heel of the neck. That's called a heel. Or it's in the back here.